Alright boys, in today's video we're going to be covering literally everything you need to know before you plan or go on that music producer trip that you've been thinking of doing for a while now. Mindset, networking hacks, spending your money well, how to profit off of your trip, making good first impressions, the realities of being away from home, when and where to travel to, and a lot more. At the moment we're in Sao Paulo. Since we're traveling right now, we have the most knowledge. We've gained a lot of experience recently, so we've thrown everything into a video. We honestly didn't expect this video to be so long and packed full of detail. We didn't hold back anything. This video has never been done before. And also stick around till the very end of this video as we've laid out everything in order of what you need to know so you can grow and profit the most out of your travel. Let's just jump straight into it. This is the setup, boys. So alright, does the job.
Alright, so firstly, we're going to get into some mindset hacks that you need to drill into your head before you start traveling and to keep while you're traveling as a music producer. And then we're going to get into how to spend your money well without blowing your whole bank away, and also networking, how to set up sessions and how to network. There's some real source in that part. So take some notes, make sure everything from this video is locked into your head, especially if you're looking to travel in these next few months or years. The first mindset hack you need to have before you start traveling into music producer is that work-life balance is complete BS. When you're traveling as a music producer and you're working, trying to network, go to studios, etc., you gotta understand, as a true hustling music producer, you can't be splitting up your days with beach days and going out every weekend and then sometimes doing work at home, sometimes going to studio sessions. When you're traveling, it's super important that you just combine everything into one. You're always working. If you do go to the beach, you're filming content for your Instagram, for your YouTube. When you're going to sessions, you're filming content, you're sending it to others. Even if you do go out for lunch a couple times to a nice restaurant or something, get a photo, get a video, throw it up on your Instagram.
We splashed out tonight, 35 USD names, and because we're obviously at an expensive restaurant, we've been filming content.
And just in general, make sure that every single second that you're overseas traveling as a music producer is benefiting you for your brand, your music, and just your future in general. We want to emphasize this point, especially if you're in your late teens or your early 20s. These are the years that are really going to determine how far you go in the music industry, the kind of connections you can make, and how fast you grow. So we understand that some of you guys, when you go and travel, you might want to go out to clubs and do all this stuff. We've been in Brazil for a month. We've been working non-stop for a month. We haven't gone out at all. We've gone to the beach a couple times. And for those of you who have a similar mindset to us, especially if you're in your late teens, your early 20s, if you really want to make this music thing work, just lock in when you're traveling. Speaking of locking in when you're traveling, if you haven't traveled before, or even if you have, be careful of all the distractions that come to you when traveling. We've seen from so many other producers we've met and seen online how easy it is for them to fall into these lazy, just crap routines while they're traveling. For us, it's not a problem. We're so locked in that we don't even think about slipping up. And there's just a mindset we recommend you have as well. 99% of the time, 100% if you're a real hustler, just stay away from bad environments, clubs, drugs, too much drinking. If you get into this stuff when you're trying to travel and work as a music producer, it's super easy for the whole trip to just turn into somewhat of just a holiday where you don't end up getting much work done. The environment in some studios sometimes can be to blame. There's always weed, there's always drinks, there's always drugs there. Just stay disciplined, stay focused, go to the studios to work, get the music done, and get back home. And people will respect you for that. If you're traveling and you're invited to some sort of like a party or music event or something where other producers or artists are going, and it could be an opportunity to just meet new people and network, 100% go to those events. We're not saying just stay locked inside your Airbnb the whole trip and don't go out and do anything. Just pick the right times to go out to these events and make sure when you're going to these things, you've always got the mindset that you're going to network, meet people, and it's still all related to your work. And just one thing we're going to share with you that we've experienced so far in Brazil is that our sleep routines have been the worst they've probably ever been in our lives. We've had studio sessions going to like 5, 6 in the morning. Our diet hasn't been nearly as good as it usually is. And also, it's hard to find time and places to work out. So we find ourselves just doing push-ups at home whenever we've got time. Or if there's an outdoor gym, we'll go there, get some pull-ups done, push-ups. The main point here is that your routine is going to get completely stuffed up when you're traveling. Just expect that to happen. Sometimes you got to sacrifice just these periods of your life to just lock in, make connections, make good music, and then when you go back home, you can get back into your normal routine.
So this is how you're going to profit off of your travel the most you can. And now that you have that mindset that your trip is 100% a work trip, with these priorities in place, you're going to get the most out of your trip and it's going to pay off in the long run. So one, you're traveling to work and make good music above everything else. And two, because you don't want to be wasting your money, and this video is talking about traveling on a budget, you want to be putting all your money into things that are going to pay off, like studios, Ubers, Airbnbs, and opportunities that will give you a return on your expense. We're going to go more into detail on how to spend your money later on. So if you want a holiday and to chill and relax, this video is probably not for you. This is for people who want to maximize every opportunity they get and have a fun trip without blowing all your money. Moving on, this is a question we actually get quite a bit, and this is, when do you actually want to start traveling? It's actually pretty hard to put rules around it and figure out when the best time is to travel. And the truth is, there's never really the perfect time to travel or to book a trip. But what we've found is, with these rough guidelines, once you have these, you're probably in a good position to start looking at traveling. So the first thing, and it sounds shallow, but it's just kind of a reality, having over 1,000 followers on Instagram is going to help. As bad and weird as it sounds, having an Instagram following is going to help a lot. For example, when you're messaging someone, people are always more likely to respond to people who have a decently sized Instagram. That's just how it is. The next thing that's going to help is a YouTube presence, and this helped a lot for us. The amount of times we've been in sessions and people have said they've seen our videos, or people have messaged us and said, hey, I saw your videos, I saw you're in my city, let's link up. Or it's even the fact that people are interested in being in a video and want to get their face on your channel. Having a YouTube presence has helped us a lot, and it will for you as well. The next thing is being good at things and having unique skills. So obviously this could mean being really good at making music, samples, or beats. But not only that, maybe you have another skill where you're really good at photography or videography, and you can bring that skill to any session or link up to provide more value. Even knowing an instrument, or maybe it's just some knowledge you have, something you've learned that you can teach people in person, having other skills that can make you stick out to the average music producer is going to help a lot. And finally, obviously, as we said, we're 18. Last year we were 17 and we were in Europe. Whatever age you are now is the perfect age to travel. You're never too young, as long as you have the funds to do so. As soon as you've got all these things in check, you do just have to pull the trigger and go and put yourself out there. The main point here is that you only want to start traveling once you are able to add significant value to artists, producers, and the people you meet who are higher up in the industry than you are. Take your time to grow your brand, learn as much as you can, build some skills, find some success, and then there'll be a point where you have to pull the trigger, say fuck it, and actually not overthink it, book your trip and go. At the end of the day, it's never going to feel like the perfect time to do anything. You just have to do it. And for us, when we were booking this trip, we were unsure what time of the year to go, how long to go.
2990 USD.
Let's go. Hit it. Do you have enough money to pay for accommodation stuff? What? Please just let us book. Take our money.
Fuck.
Ooh, how much did it cost?
Oh, we can't cancel because we got the non-refundable tickets. So that means we have to go to Brazil.
Check accommodation.
No, we're staying on the streets.
What? We kind of just made it up as we went, said let's do it, we booked it. And the funny thing is, when we're over here, things just end up working out well. People are at the right place at the right time. If you just take the initiative and say yes to things, the universe will reward you and put opportunities in front of you. Let's quickly talk about where you want to be traveling. Wherever you decide to travel is obviously going to be decided by what kind of music you make, what industries you want to be producing in. But obviously you want to be looking at those main cities, the capitals of countries usually. Places like London, LA, Atlanta. For us, because we were really interested in the Brazilian scene, it was Rio and Sao Paulo. For you might be interested in German music or Italian music. You might want to go to the main cities in those countries. Any big main cities in countries, there's going to be people to work with. But obviously do your research before you go and see where the hotspots are for the kind of music you want to make. And depending on your budget as well and where you live in the world, there might be some places you can go to for much cheaper price. So keep that in mind as well. If you live in America or Europe, start your traveling as a producer by just going to that main big city that's closest to you. Start to build your name up in that city until you've built a solid foundation in that city, and then expand from there. For us living in New Zealand, there was really no scene at all for the music we want to make. So for us, from early on, we've always been wanting to travel to different countries. This question of where to travel really just depends on your situation and where you are, but hopefully some of those ideas have helped. Next, a music trip is an absolute content goldmine. And this is obvious because you're going to be in studios, you're going to be in a big city, a new environment, and there's a lot of content to be made. So from the get-go, as soon as you leave for your travel, the one thing that every producer can do is daily stories. You can post anything. Obviously, photos and videos in studio sessions, photos or videos of the city you're at. You can answer questions. You can take clips of you hustling in the Airbnb. There's so many things you can put on your story. Just have a look at our Instagram story. You can see it every day. We don't miss a day. There's always something on there. Even if it's an old photo, there's no excuses. For us personally, we're taking these travel experiences as a chance to vlog everything. So literally from when we've left, we've been filming everything, doing different formats of vlogs. Like we're going to do a day in the life, a week in the life, portrait clips, landscape, everything. It's really not that hard once you decide you want to be vlogging to just film everything and then make these vlogs either on the trip or when you get back home and post them. You don't want to be regretting it when you get back home that you didn't film this stuff. And also in years to come, it's the best thing to be able to look back and see what you were doing. So we do recommend posting vlogs on YouTube of this trip. The next thing is reels and montages. As you're doing your vlogs and your stories, take some vertical videos, and then on your trip or when you get back home, you can edit them into cool reels, put some music over it, be creative with this and do your own formats. But you'll see on our Instagram, we've been doing this already while we've been here in Brazil. And when we get back home, we're going to continue to do more reels of the trip. But don't miss this opportunity. You can make some sick videos and things to boost up your brand and make it look so much cooler with that lifestyle while you're traveling. And that's it. You can never film too much. You're not going to regret it later. And make sure you have an iPhone so the quality is good.
During a trip, everything speeds up as long as you're active. In just the last 4 weeks we've been here in Brazil, we've gained over 400 followers on Instagram just from being tagged in stories, going to studios, and just people finding out about us and following us on Instagram. It feels like everything about our brand and just music in general has got a 10x boost on it right now. The things we're learning about how to make better music, secrets to the industry, how to make more money, and this is pretty much just because we're saying yes to everything, meeting people, talking to people, and just learning as much as we can, making the most of just being in a new country where things are just done a little bit differently to where we are back at home. So what we're saying here is that the most important thing you can do while you're traveling as a music producer is say yes to pretty much everything. For example, there have been maybe 2 studio sessions we've turned down in Brazil so far. Sometimes the vibe just isn't there, or you can just tell that it probably wouldn't be the most productive studio session. So within reason, say yes to everything, be spontaneous, go out and do stuff, meet new people, and just be ready to do anything at any time. One night a couple days ago, we were just working here in the Airbnb, expecting to have a quiet night, just working on samples, editing videos, and just getting some work done. And then we got a message at 11 p.m. saying, come to the studio, I'm here now. It was a crazy opportunity. We got an Uber straight away, went to the studio, we were there till 4 a.m.
Change of plans. Now we're going to the studio with Enzo Cello again. So we're just packing up and we're about to leave. Let's go, studio time.
So all we're saying is just be ready for anything. Things pop up at any time. You're just going to be ready to go whenever. Everything about your music and brand is just going to skyrocket 10x when you're traveling, as long as you're active and you're saying yes to pretty much everything. Next, for a little business lesson, one thing we want you guys to understand about being a music producer and traveling is that every single expense can be a business expense. Now, whether you're paying tax or not right now, doesn't matter, but just to know this for the future, all your expenses that's related to work can be deducted off how much tax you pay at the end of the year. So things like your accommodation, Ubers to studios, Ubers home, your food, everything related to work can be a business expense. Your flights or your bus to a new country or city. One thing we would advise is to start getting into a habit of tracking all your expenses, whether it's on a Google Doc or it's on notes on your phone. Track everything, what it was for. All these things can be linked into the living costs of running your business, and you won't be having to pay any tax on those things. Moving into living on a budget while traveling, especially if you're not making heaps of money off music or you don't have a lot of money behind you, there is absolutely no reason to be balling out on food and high-end accommodation for your travels. Sometimes there's one-offs where you might stay a couple nights in a nice place or go for an expensive meal with somebody, some artists or producers, but these can be opportunities to film content in a nicer Airbnb or a nicer restaurant, so you should be thinking of these as more investments as you're getting content and it's giving you a return on your music and brand. All you really need need is a place to sleep, food to keep you going, and ideally for your Airbnb, a desk to work at for when you're working at home. Keep as much money as you can for things music related that will actually give you a good return on your spending. With our experience in traveling, we've always been able to find a place between 30 and 50 US dollars per night. Some places maybe a little bit more. You can sometimes find places for even less, but it's important to do your research, look at multiple locations, see if it's a good location for a studio, if it's a good environment for working in. These are all things that you just get better at as you travel more. In terms of getting around the place, here in Brazil, for us, Ubers are super cheap. So we're literally Ubering everywhere, to the studio, the airport, everything. A 1 hour Uber drive here is like 5 USD, which is absolutely insane. Don't know how to make profit on it. But when we're in London, we're taking the metro, as it's far more affordable. And one more thing, which is optional, but another way that can make your trip cheaper, is traveling with other people. We'd probably only recommend traveling with 1 or 2 other people, keeping it small, and making sure 100% that the people you're traveling with are completely fixated on the same goals and have the same mindset as you, as traveling with other people can easily go to crap and ruin your whole trip. But it is just another way where you can split Uber costs, split accommodation and food, and just make it cheaper for everybody.
Next, we're going to move on to networking, everything we've learned about networking when traveling, what you need to do before, during, and after your trip, so you make sure you meet up with everyone you want to meet up with and build solid connections with these people that will serve you for a long time afterwards. Before you leave, once you've decided where you want to travel to, what you want to do is write down a list, we did this on a Google Doc, of every single connection you've found in that city or in the cities you're going to be traveling to. Put whether they're a producer or an artist, and maybe put their Instagram there so it's all organized. And this list is going to help a lot, so whenever there's a period where you're thinking, I've got a free day this week, I need someone to meet up with, you've got a list, you can message them, and it just helps a lot having everything on one page. The best way to find people in a new city is Instagram. You find some people who are from that city, and then you see who they've been with, what studios they've been at, who they're following, you find mutuals, you find artists from that city, you find who's produced their songs, and then with all these connections you find, you start to send messages to them, ask them where they're from, let them know that you're going to be traveling there soon, and depending on the person, you could even start to work with them before you get there. This would depend if they're interested in working with you and they're receptive and they want to have a conversation with you. But for other people, it's maybe just better waiting until you're there and meeting up in person. You need to spend a few weeks just slowly building up contacts and putting them into this list. That's what we've done, and it's worked for us. You'll be surprised at who you can meet up with when you're traveling to these big cities. Even those guys that seem like they're out of your league, be ambitious with who you can meet up with. We've met up with some decently sized artists here that we weren't originally thinking of meeting up with, but just being invited to different studio sessions, opportunities with people who you didn't think you could meet up with will pop up. But sometimes the connections with the bigger people you won't be able to get before you travel, but may be easier to get once you're actually in the city. Next, once you've got that list, in the days leading up to your travel, or even when you're at the destination, you're going to be starting to organize link-ups and studio sessions. So with all the producers and the artists that replied previously, you now can send them a follow-up message, let them know when you're going to be in their city, and ask them if they have a studio you could go to, so you can start to plan a date and a time. Now, the reality is here, some people who originally said yes, who originally were keen, may now ghost you or leave you unseen, and this is normal. Some people will say they're keen to meet up, but then they're super busy, or they just don't want to get out of their comfort zone and meet up with you. If this happens, don't take this personally. There are plenty of other people who would be down to meet up with you. Once you're going to these first sessions that you've organized now with these people, the magic that can happen from here, and what's happened for us in Sao Paulo and in Rio de Janeiro, is that you go to these sessions, you meet other people in the sessions. There's always new artists and producers that come into the studio and say hi, which is a perfect opportunity to get people's Instagrams, get on people's stories, they'll tag you in them, and this is where your name just gets out there into the city, and the networking opportunities start to open up. So expect this to happen, but don't rely on this, and expect that as a bonus. This might be one of the most important things of this video, and this is making a good first impression on new people you meet, and specifically when you go to a studio session. We think we've done a pretty good job at giving a good first impression to people, and we've just got some general things that you can do to make sure that you're giving off a good energy to new people you meet. So the first thing is, we always bring some food or drink or both into a studio session. It's just a nice gesture to do. It's more about you just contributing something. Take some biscuits, some Red Bulls, whatever. It's just showing you appreciation for getting the invite and going to their studio or their house. And it's a habit that we started last year in London that we're just going to continue from now on. The next thing is taking videos and photos of the studio session, of other people, getting people to take photos of you so you guys can all post them on your story, tag each other. And something that worked well was, we were in a studio session a couple of days ago. I was taking quite a few videos of these guys. freestyling. And once the studio ended, the guys had to go. I said, I can airdrop these videos to you guys. They're like, yeah. We airdropped them. They then could use them for their stories, for posts, for whatever they wanted to. But it's just another thing that you don't have to do, but it's a nice gesture and it makes a really good first impression. We have a vintage camera that we take around. So we've been taking vintage shots of people, sending them footage, making edits for certain people. That's another gesture we've been doing. And it just, again, adds value to a studio session and to people that you're meeting. A side note, you also want to read the room, read the studio session before you start taking photos or videos. It's always good to clear it up first. The next thing is just be genuine. Don't try to be anyone. Ask people questions, join in on the conversation, and just bring good energy into the room. Get the Instagrams of everyone in the room. Make sure to remember their name. Keep those connections. You never know when those connections are going to be useful or important to have in the future. Most of the time, all the people you meet are super cool. You'll get along with them pretty well. But occasionally there's going to be people who maybe you just don't gel together perfectly. You don't need to be everyone's friend. You are there at the end of the day to make music with people. You have music in common. So just put your ego to the side when you're working with people. You don't need to be meeting up with people again if you don't want to. But keep your reputation to a high standard when you're with people and stay genuine and respectful with whoever you're around. The next thing we want to talk about is packing and prepping, things you need to be taking, things you need to do before you leave. The number one thing that we did on this trip that we didn't do on our last trip is only taking carry-on baggage. It seems like a small thing, but honestly, it's so much easier not having a huge suitcase if you can fit all your stuff just in a backpack and a side bag. That's how we've been rolling. It means you don't have to wait around at airports. You're with your bags the whole time, so you know they haven't been thrown around or get lost, and you can easily move around. You can hop into taxis easily. You don't have to wheel around a huge suitcase. Just this and a backpack like that. That's literally all we've taken. It may not look like much space, but we've been able to fit everything and more. There's some things that we actually didn't need to take, we haven't even used yet. Now, another important thing before you leave, back up all your files from your computer and from your hard drives into a Google Drive or Dropbox service. It's happened multiple times. Our hard drives completely died. When you're traveling, it's super easy to lose stuff or leave stuff at Airbnbs or studios. Like in Rio, we left one of our hard drives in a studio, and then the next day we went to Sao Paulo. But just because we had uploaded everything to the Google Drive, we had everything still with us, so it was no problem. Back up all your stuff onto a drive. Just trust us. Obviously, you want to be taking your laptop, your headphones. We recommend taking the interface and a mic as well, so you can do vocal chops, record videos, record artists if you need to. And sometimes people's interfaces at studios may not work with your computer for some reason, so you always have a backup. And in terms of something to film on, one of the new iPhones, you can do all your vlogs on that, all your YouTube videos, stories, everything on that.
Finally, just a piece of advice we want to give you about your money is don't be stingy, especially when you're traveling. Now, we've talked about budgeting with your accommodation, your Airbnbs, and we highly recommend to save as much money as possible as you can there, especially if you're young, you're a music producer, and you're just hustling and starting out. You're not a king. You don't need the king treatment yet, but save as much money as you can to buy those drinks and foods to take to studios, order food when you're in the studio, order pizza for the other producer or artist you're with, and just have an abundance mindset that when you're spending money for the right things, it's going to come back to you anyway. Especially if everybody else is going and getting drinks and ordering food to the place, and you're the only person that's not contributing, you're going to give off the stingiest energy ever. Nobody's going to want to hang out with you again. If you've got the same mindset as us, you're a hustler, and you know you're going to be working and working, hustling until you're making lots of money anyway, there is absolutely no reason to cheap out now, even if you don't have that much money, on these experiences that is going to build your reputation and actually make you more money in the future. There's something about just being away from home in a completely different country or city that just gives you a whole new perspective on life, gets you inspired, creates new ideas, and teaches you lessons as well. So sometimes you just gotta send it, book those flights, book that accommodation, go to that new country, and just start traveling and start getting your name out there. And with that being said, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Go back through these sections. If you didn't understand anything, watch it back. Drop some questions down below. And we hope this video inspired you. Go check out our Instagram. More Brazil content on the way. And we also just opened one-on-one sessions if you guys want to talk to us about traveling, networking, making better music, making money. Check the link in the description and see if that's something you're interested in. Boys, see you in the next video. Have a good one.